All right, quick reminder, Huntstock 2023 tickets are on sale. We are going back to Wildwood Farm in Westminster, Massachusetts. The dates are August 11th, 12th, and the 13th. We're coming back with all the same stuff we did last year. An amazing 3D archery course with 20 targets, a new scoring system there. We have $25,000 plus in door prizes. Like last year, that'll probably tick up higher than that, but we'll guarantee $25,000 worth of awesome door prizes. We're going to have a great lineup of speakers, podcasters, YouTubers, new sponsors and exhibitors, and experiences. So it's going to be, if you were there last year, it's going to be everything that we did last year. With minor tweaks. We're opening up the festival a little bit later, and we're opening up 3D archery a little bit earlier, so that if you want to shoot 3D archery and you don't want to miss any part of the festival, you can get there first thing when 3D archery opens, get out, shoot the course, and then get back in time for the opening of the festival events and experiences. So those are just some minor changes. We also have a couple of new ticket packages. We're doing the same pricing last year, $40 per day. 3-day pass for $80, so you essentially get a free day if you do the 3-day pass. And then we're adding in the 3-day super pass, which is access to the festival all 3 days plus unlimited 3D archery. That's $150. You're going to get 6 door prize tickets with that one, and also you'll be invited to the Thursday night VIP party on the farm before Huntstock even opens. So if that's something that you're interested in, I definitely recommend getting the 3-day super pass. It's going to be the best bang for your buck. Oh, and one more thing. If you want to win a custom Huntstock 2023 Woodman Arms muzzleloader, and I think you should want to win that. It's gonna be awesome. I talked with Mark Woodman. They're gonna make a custom muzzleloader inscribed with Huntstock 2023. It's gonna be something special, and the first 1,000 people who buy tickets online are gonna get entered into that. Now, the only caveat is you have to buy either a 3-day pass, a 3-day super pass, or the Saturday only ticket, a single day admission. You just have to be there Saturday. You have to have a Saturday ticket because that's when we will do that special drawing. So buy a 3-day pass, buy a 3-day super pass, or buy a Saturday admission ticket, and the first 1,000 people to do so are going to get entered into that raffle. So we're looking forward to that. And other than that, we'll trickle out announcements as we get closer to Huntstock. With the lineup, new guests, new speakers, new sponsors, all that stuff will be coming out. So keep listening to the podcast. Check back on our Instagram, on our social media pages. Check out back on Facebook, and we'll be trickling out announcements again as we get closer. So we will see you August 11th, 12th, and 13th again at Wildwood Farm for Huntstock 2023. Looking forward to it. Thanks again for the support. Okay, another episode of the Hunt Suburbia podcast. Sitting here with Scotland. You guys know Scotland by now.
Hello.
What have we been doing, man?
Been hunting. Yep. You want to talk about just this kind of past 3 days mainly?
Yeah, we'll talk about the last 3 days. We'll talk about, actually, this will be the first podcast since I got my tagged out and that buck tracking, so I'll recap that a little bit too.
Cool.
Maybe ask me some questions along as I do that. Kind of interview me a little bit if you can.
Yep.
And draw some stuff out. But before we get into it, just a reminder to everybody, Huntstock tickets are now available. You can buy them at the link in the podcast, the link in the YouTube description. It's in the Hunt Suburbia bio. It's in the Huntstock Fest Instagram bio. Click through there, get your tickets, and get them for Christmas gifts. You can print them out, stuff them in stockings, whatever you want to do. But the first 1,000 tickets sold online, either a Saturday ticket or 3-day passes. Any 3-day pass will get entered into win a custom Huntstock Woodman Arms next year. That Timmy and Mark said they're going to engrave a nice custom Huntstock 1 of 1.
I was going to say what's going to be different, but that's cool.
Yeah, it'll just say 1 of 1, right? And I think hopefully every year we'll do something like that. There will be the Woodman Arms 2024 Huntstock version the next year. And those guys are great. They're going to be a long-term partner, I'm sure. I actually killed my buck with the Woodman a couple days ago. Scotland was carrying the Woodman around. We got a lot to talk about because you shot your Woodman 3 times. Let's start with you. We'll get into my buck story later, but let's start with you. So Scotland came down. He didn't get to come down this year for bow season, which we did last year.
We did last year, yeah.
So you didn't get down for bow.
I got my buck in Vermont this year, which was really cool. It was a great deer, so I was kind of...
Oh, yeah, we got to talk that a little bit, too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, I got my wife's visit in Scotland with the kids, so I thought, all right, I'll come down and do late muzzy with you. And that's what we were doing, putting around Central Mass Woods.
Yeah, so we had planned for Scotland, came down Wednesday night, going to hunt Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Today's Saturday. And Wednesday, I went out hunting the night that he was supposed to arrive. And I ended up getting my buck and tagging out, which is perfect. Then I could kind of focus on guiding a little bit more and getting him set up into spots. So the first morning on Thursday, the wind wasn't perfect for this spot, but I put him in my best spot where I've been seeing a lot of deer, a lot of does in there. It's near where I killed my 8-pointer the first week this year, and I've seen a really big 8-pointer, a nice 9-pointers in there too, and then a bunch of other bucks that you would have shot any of them.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You're not trophy hunting. You're down here to kill a deer.
I'm new, so like everyone should know, like, yeah, I'm your friend and everything, but I am very new to hunting. I got really lucky this year in Vermont, so it might look like I know what I'm doing.
No,
but
you're getting good quick though.
I apply myself to things I want to do, so I got that going for me. But I'm still green as all hell. Hence me thinking muzzleloaders shoot like rifles. Yeah, so I walk in.
So I put him in the stand. You can see a mile away, right? You can see a mile away. You're up against the border of a place that you're not allowed to hunt, and then there's nice, perfect, I don't know, maybe 70 acres total in between that kind of it's just an awesome place that you can hunt. And I put him in there. I was like, listen, there's some good bucks in here, whatever. Sit the morning. I got to go drop my deer off at the butcher in the morning. So then after I do that, I'll come and I'll push through this section that you can't hunt right towards you. That was the game plan.
Yep.
And as I'm going to the butcher, you text me.
Well, so I faff around a bit trying to find your climber. That was an issue. I was supposed to be in the tree by first light. I wasn't. But I found it. That was my first time ever using a climber too. So that was kind of cool. But man, those things are so easy. It's genius. Whoever invented the climbing tree stand, my man, applause. So I'm up. I get set up. I'm sitting, I think it was like 9 o'clock finally, when I see movement way down to my left, further down. And not only do I see movement, but there's 2 bucks locked horns.
Yeah.
And they're like, I hear the very faint tapping of
bucks
the antlers.
fighting.
They're fighting. They weren't going at it. It wasn't like a bar fight.
Post-rut, like, hey, we're kind of friendly again. Let's just...
And it suddenly dawned on me that I've been listening to that and not knowing that, like, it wasn't like, duh, it's rap. No, it didn't sound like antlers. It was just
before you saw them, you in the back of your head, you heard like something going on, but you didn't register what it was.
It did not sound like what I thought rattling antlers sounded like. But once I saw them through the scope, I was like, oh, that's that noise.
Because they were just tinkling them.
It sounded like, like the faint raindrops in like the beach leaves that...
Yeah.
It was not... Yeah. Anyway, now I know. And I'm looking down there and it's 2 bucks. One's bigger than the other. One's kind of like a small 6 or a 4-key or something, and then the other one's like a bigger 6, maybe an 8, but nothing
At this
big.
point, they're about 150 yards away.
Yeah, down through a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
And I've got them in my scope, and like, okay, they're both bucks. I'd be happy with either, but let's not be a fool. Let's try and find out which is the better of the 2, and let's get that one. So they slowly start kind of walking up the hill closer to me, but then it's very obvious that they're kind of going... perpendicular to me, and they're not. I wasn't going to get any closer, but I might get a broadside maybe.
But you were going to get closer. They were 150 when they were fighting, and then they were getting closer to you. At the closest, they got about 95 yards.
Yeah, at the closest to me, like the corner of where they turned. At that corner was where I took a shot at one of those bucks that was fighting.
But you took a shot twice before that, didn't you?
No.
Okay,
so
right,
before that, so at that corner, it wasn't quite at 90. I was still further away down the hill through a bunch of brush.
Yep.
And I saw, vitals in brown, but it was a window, right? If I had my 270, I'm laughing, but I feel like I must have hit brush or I just whiffed. I don't know, but
no reaction to the deer. Didn't react.
I shoot at him, boom, goes off. Right, I immediately start reloading pretty quickly. I got another bullet in the muzzy. They kind of like.
Did they even see you reloading or hear you or anything? They just didn't even know you were up there.
To be honest, I was so focused on reloading really quickly that I thought maybe I'll get a shot as they're bouncing. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I get another one in, and they're there, and one's got his head down feeding again. It's like, what? Okay. So the same deer is going, they're kind of going away from me, and they're getting slightly further, but not directly away, kind of across. I get another spot kind of with some crap in the way, and I squeeze again. No reaction. Tails up, like no reaction. I'm like, reload again. And then I see a deer looking at me, and it's not either of those two deer. It's a third deer, and it's bigger. And there's like, it was kind of crazy how coincidence it was. There were like 3 V trees in a line over like a 50-yard stretch, and they all lined up like a window. And there's this thing licking his nose, staring at me with his antlers up in a big V. He was very high racked. I don't think it was the big 8. I think it was the 6. But I had a brisket shot through V trees. I'm laughing. I'm slightly high on his chest because I thought it would drop. Squeeze the trigger. I got him. I'm sure I'm got him. No. Tails up. Bound. They stopped and looked back at me. I realized, well, now I'm out of loads and bullets. So I'm in the tree or, up the creek without a paddle. Again, back to the new hunter thing. I immediately call you and I'm like, Pat, I fucked up. Oh my God, dude, I shot 3 times. I'm such an idiot. And you're like, are they still there? I'm like, well, they were, but now they're not because I'm calling you. And you're like, yeah, dude, why'd you call me? What are you talking? And I'm like,
at least whisper, like you were talking in your full voice.
Oh, I thought the ship had sailed. That's it. May as well just fucking call the boy.
Even though you had no loads left. Like, no matter what, if they're still there, observe everything, especially after you shoot. Observe them, everything that they're doing. Yeah. Be silent. Maybe you can tell if one of them might be injured by how they react, or you see exactly where they go, so you know where to look for blood after, all of that stuff, and just observe, because you can't do anything else.
Well, I could have gone down to my truck too and potentially got more loads and then crept back up.
Exactly.
I just was foolish. I didn't know.
Yep. It's definitely never over. So
right.
The only time you can call and be full voice is when the deer's dead. You know it.
Yep. Adrenaline was up, heart was beating. I thought I screwed the pooch. So yeah, lesson learned. More practice required with the woodman. I also need to learn that you can't shoot through brush.
Yeah, there was so much brush. So we ended up. I was like, just go down to your truck, get some more loads, get back up into your spot. So you only had one more load in the truck anyway. So you loaded it. You had one more shot. You got back up into the tree, and then I came up, and as he's in the tree, I'm trying to align where he was sure he missed the first 2 shots. The third one, that brisket shot through the V that was only 95 yards away, was his best thought that he would have hit it. So I'm like, all right, tell me where to go, and tell me when I'm exactly where that buck was standing. And you could see there was some little bit of remnants of snow, so I could see the tracks too. Like he was standing.
And you could see where they were fighting further down too.
You see the commotion where they were fighting, all that. So he's like, it's right there. So I was there. I brought my rangefinder. I ranged him from there to see how far it was. It was 93 yards. And so that was the starting point. We looked all around. There's no blood. Brisket shots are going to be, they don't bleed a lot anyway. Sometimes it's just internal bleeding. But
250 grains. I mean, man.
I looked through my binoculars from that spot up to you. There was hundreds of twigs and sticks and branches in between. It was like the depth, and at that level, like it was just like a quagmire of that.
And when you're focused in on with a scope, you don't see the out of focus stuff closer. And I just thought, insert excuse here. But anyway, I whiffed. Lesson learned. More practice required with the woodman.
But the first morning here, you saw 3 bucks.
Yeah, tons of fun. Watching them fight through my scope was so cool, man.
For the first time,
it was so cool.
Yep, you learned a whole bunch of stuff. You're only going to learn from making mistakes in the deer woods anyway.
Yeah, the learning curve is so steep that you learn so much so quickly if you're willing to take it in. I'm trying. But that was really, really cool. And then let's see. What did we do? We got out of those woods.
I had you sit on the ridge where you saw them last, and I did a giant push to see if, maybe they bedded down nearby. Because they were going up onto that ridge. I know that area, and they bed on that all the time. If you would have never shot, they would have just meandered up to that ridge and bedded down there. Of course, you don't know that, and of course, like you want to take a shot anyway. But you could have waited maybe a little longer, and maybe a better broadside shot would have manifested. But you learned that.
I'm just used,
you don't need to rush.
I learned to hunt through you and at deer camp in Vermont, and that is if you get an opportunity, and you've got a bolt action 270, you take that shot. I mean, don't shoot at movement, don't wound a deer, but like if you can get a clean shot, even if it's through a window at the vitals, boom, you take that shot, or else you're telling the story at deer camp. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind of like, don't fuck this up. This is your only shot that I really should have treated.
When you're in a tree with like a woodman, it's almost like you're just bow hunting with an extended range a little bit. You wait for your patiently. If they're just slowly coming in, it's not like they were chasing does or booking it through there, which you might then take a shot. You can be very patient and kind of wait for.
Yeah, I just didn't know the muzzleloader game. I just assumed it was more like rifles. And, woodman arms are so light and they're so great. And, they really are nice to shoot. But you forget they are still muzzleloaders. And I just, lesson learned. So what did we do? We decided to go
Then we audibled after I pushed through there, and they weren't around. They weren't bedded in any of those bedding areas. So they got out of there. Probably went into the unhuntable piece. We audibled all the way to the other side. A place I had scouted in the summer. We sat down next to that swamp. It was a nice looking spot. We had a nice, it felt good. Nice wind for it, but we didn't see any deer there. Saw some giant rubs and stuff like high up on trees. You were like, holy crap.
Yeah, that's right. I saw the first signpost rub I've ever seen in my life, and I saw just the biggest regular rubs that are like, waist high and around a tree that, not what you see in Vermont, or at least where I hunt in Vermont. That's crazy. Really cool.
So that was the first day, and it was, there was some good action. I felt good about getting you in the spot. At least you saw bucks and you had an opportunity. Yep. And then the next day, which was yesterday, it is 30-mile-per-hour winds, 35 sometimes, super gusty, consistent heavy rain all day, and like low 40s, high 30s temperature, which a lot of people would never go out and hunt in that.
Especially with a non-Woodman Arms muzzleloader.
If it's the Woodman is pretty good at keeping dry the way the action is. It closes off, your breech stays, it's pretty tight.
The scope was by far my biggest battle.
Yes.
I'm getting flip up caps.
Keeping the scope dry, and that was our big issue. But I was like, look, this is some great weather. We're going to still hunt all day. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to go to this place that I know there's a bunch of mature bucks and we have some room to walk around. And I was like super confident. I'm like, dude, we're going to get a shot off at a mature buck today. Because those days are like, they're killing days. The trackers will say if there's snow on the ground and it's windy like that, that's the killing day. This is no snow on the ground, but windy and precipitation, and the odds of seeing deer, especially still hunting in that, is just sky high compared to a normal day crunchy. They can't hear you coming unless you break something big. Your scent is muffled down, and I think even to an extent they don't see as well. It's a little bit foggy, and their senses are all lowered.
Everything's moving in the woods. All the branches are moving, so they're not, there's not an anomalous movement. If you're walking through, they're like, they're kind of like,
exactly,
So
we get out of the car and we are just we're right from the start. We're like, this feels really big bucky where we're at. All of our steps are silent and perfect. We're moving at a very slow but perfect pace. Like I felt so good that the first 4 or 5 hours of that day still hunting.
Well, 5 steps in, we come across a carcass, like a clean picked couple of leg bones and a rib cage. No dead head to be found, but someone had a feast. And that just added to the juju of the moment. We're like, okay. This is really cool.
And those woods, that first hill that we took down were really nice and thick and just big deery. It felt like you're up in northern Maine or something like that. It was just like, this is all big buck bedding, and everywhere through there's rubs, there's massive rubs, there's scrapes, there's piles of crap. There was just sign everywhere down there. Intermittent mountain laurel. And it's just every step you feel like there could be a big buck around the corner, right?
Yeah, I've never just walked around the woods and seen, just gone from rub to rub to rub to rub to rub. It's like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Normally if you find, in camp, you find an area of rubs, you're like, okay, this is a good hot spot. Maybe I'll put a camera in, maybe I'll put a stand in, but it's futile in this spot. I mean, okay, yeah, there's some areas, right? But man, crazy, big woods, lots of deer, but just walking around to see them, it was really, really cool experience. Going slow. I think we were really good at first, but they kind of got a little carried away towards the end.
Well, the afternoon is just the wind's weird, and now it's kind of looping back, and the wind was at our backs instead of in our face, and my legs were pretty tired. I've done tons of miles this week. I think I was starting, and I was getting close to cramping. But anyway, we get down that first hill, and then they're down into like the stream bed, and I was looking specifically on X. I'm like, well, there's a nice V here. or a couple streams come in, and then it's kind of swampy and wetlands there. I want to cross into that V. I think something might be bedded in there, and I just want to see what it's like in there. And we cross into that V, and I see movement, and I'm ahead of Evan just a little bit, keeping my eyes open. He's a few steps behind me, but big buck. And he's like, oh shit, yep. And we're watching it, and this big buck is booking it.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean,
he was booking it out of there.
Mature deer.
Staying low, tail low, heavy body, and he had like thick, heavy horns too.
Yeah, it was cool. It was like stereotypical, just. Yeah. It's like, yep.
Couldn't get a shot off.
No.
But that was the first kind of like, all right, we're still hunting. We're doing. Now, he definitely didn't hear us. We were dead silent in that section. I remember there was nothing. He didn't hear us. He didn't smell us. The wind was in our face. So he had to have been bedding facing us and just saw us. Or he was standing up and feeding and not bedding, and that he could see better that way because he's not down in the low brush.
Yep. But that was cool. That was pretty quick. An hour in, and there's a mature
And there's
buck.
an awesome big buck.
Yeah.
Didn't get a shot. We kind of ran to the end of the ridge that he was running down. You know, we tried to beat him. He's fast, but he could have stopped on the top and looked back to see what was chasing him. We kind of went around and booked it over there in case, you know, he ran down the other side of the ridge and pinched right where we were. Didn't work out, so we kept going. We ended up getting into these rolling hills with all these, you know, it's real thick false blueberry or blueberry. I don't know because I actually don't go in there much in the summertime. Maybe they're real blueberries. But we're in these rolling hills of that stuff. Where a few days ago when I was tracking in there, I jumped 4 doe in these rolling parts. So we're going through there, and we end up sneaking up over one, just getting up to the tops and peeking over. Go to another one, get to the top, peek over, go really slow. Every step, every step's your best, and just see a tail and I see the back end of a body and it looked big. I was like, Evan, there's a deer right there, and I think that's gonna be a buck, man. A buck. Get up. So we're next to it, looking. He's like, oh yeah, that is a big body. There was a doe, and then more brown was just manifesting everywhere.
And flashes too, like little white.
Yep.
You know, they weren't flagging, but they were like, you know, doing the back to
or you
back.
just see the head move and the white around an eye.
Yeah. Oh, they were doing the dog shake, you know, getting the rain off them. They kept doing the.
There were just so many. I think there were 8 doe in that group, and we kept thinking maybe there's a buck. Let's glass all of them. You know, we crawled up on our hands and knees to this little knob and got behind a tree and watched them for probably 25 minutes and kept looking to see maybe a buck was coming. But we're like, all right, it's all doe. Let's retreat down this hill and go around a different knob so they don't see us. And we kept going. But I don't know. That was pretty. We jumped another one way up on top. That was probably a buck later.
Right.
We never saw his head. He was by himself. But I don't know. What'd you think about that whole experience?
It was the first time I've tried to still hunt around camp, being a newbie and, you know, walking way too fast, making way too much noise. So this is the first time where, you know, kind of thanks to Hunt Suburbia Guide Service, I was forcing the slow walk and, you know, just trying to make as little stick snaps as possible. And I feel like we were pretty effective. Very little mess ups. It was fun. Every single step and every single moment you have to be mentally engaged, which is different than sitting. You know, it's easy to whip out Instagram and start scrolling when you're sitting in the stand. But when you're walking and every single step you have to be cognizant of, and you got to slowly let down, you know, the quads. It's it's good. It's a lot of fun. Time flies by. You look at your watch, you're like, it's 2:00.
Yeah.
We've been at this since 6. Like what? Yeah, it's crazy.
And most people, like, that's miserable weather to be in, but we were like, I don't know, 3, it was like 2:30, and we're nearing the end of the still hunt. And I was like, you know, we just stopped. The cool thing about it is you stop every 3 minutes or so, stop, and you just think of something and you talk, but you're whispering the whole time. You gotta whisper, because deer can hear the low range if you're talking like anything other than a whisper. So we're just stopping every 3 minutes, and somebody has something to say, something cool, and it's just awesome, right? We're engaging our mind.
Yep.
You're thinking about deer hunting too, but I think at like 2:30, I stopped at one point. I'm like, most people just would never experience this kind of weather, but it is my favorite weather to hunt.
Especially muzzleloader season.
You can see so many deer, and you have an amazing opportunity to sneak up on a mature buck. You
just have to accept rain.
And you said, yeah, I haven't even felt like there's not one second of the day that I felt like I'm miserable in this stuff. We were comfortable.
Yeah.
Once you get wet, you're wet, but we dress the right way. And
yeah, I mean, growing up in Scotland with the rain, it's kind of like someone from Arizona with the heat. I am just, born by it, molded by it. It's just the rain is it's no thing. That was rugby practice every single Saturday for me. So, yep, it's fun actually, and it's kind of nice knowing that you are out there when most people aren't.
Yeah, you have the woods to yourself, essentially.
You get that little ego stroke. You're like, I'm a badass. This is cool.
But whenever I see that shit on the forecast, it's like I really want to just go still hunt. And I hope that you think that sometimes now too. Up in Vermont, whatever, if you have that kind of a day, take your gun for a walk, especially if you got a rifle, it's during rifle season. It's really fun.
I think that's more essential, at least where I hunt, because there's less laurel and less those fake blueberries, and it's very open hardwoods and then, evergreens. So to still hunt, like you were saying, you have to be at elevation, I think, up in there, or else.
It's a little bit different, when there's not the undergrowth.
Yeah.
But also it makes it easier for you to see deer moving too. They can see you easier, but you can see them easier. There's less places to hide. So.
And I think if you're at camp for like 3 days in a row, if you're going to set one day, then still hunt in the middle, and then the next set after that is it's refreshed again, because 3 days sitting straight all day, it's kind of tough. I don't know. Maybe some people are like, nope, I can do it. Well, I find it a little tricky to sit all day 3 days in a row.
Yep.
So yeah, it's nice. It breaks up the monotony. It's fun, and I bet it feels better when you get a buck doing it that way.
Yeah. My first one still hunting was at camp this year. Like actually still hunting. I've shot them before, like walking into my stand or whatever, but like going out and saying I'm going to still hunt all day rather than sit in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was great.
You also called your shot with that deer. Like you were like, I am going to still hunt and I'm going to get a buck.
Yep.
And you still hunted and got a buck.
Well, it was the kind of rainy, windy a day again too. So when that happens, my confidence level is through the roof.
Yep. And that's
because you become a super hunter at that point. Like
right.
All the things that work against you normally in a regular day.
Yep.
Aren't working against you, or if they are, it's 95% less. Like, some of it's 5% maybe. It still works against you, but like all of those, it just dampens their senses.
If you're confident, there's absolutely no substitution for that, because you're not going to miss an opportunity. That's all it comes down to. You're just like focused in on it.
Yep.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah. So after that, I don't know, what we saw 10 deer.
Yep.
Yesterday, and a big mature buck, and that was great. And this morning, both feeling a little under the weather. I woke up terrible, been pretty sick the last few days. So you didn't go out today, but
no, I kind of having nightmares about what my cat's doing in my house while I'm not there and no one's there. So should get back up the road after this.
Yep. So I guess I should tell the story a little bit of the buck I got tracking. So people who listen to the podcast will see the videos. I passed a big 6-pointer second week of bow season because it was so early in the season. There were some bigger bucks that I, had my eye on. So I passed them, and I got really cool footage of them, and it was the biggest buck I'd ever passed before. I don't know, a month after that, starting to be like, you're getting in the middle of the rut, and I'm still not seeing the action I was expecting to see. And end of November comes by, I'm still not. And I'm like, man, you start to second guess yourself. I should have killed that buck back, the second week of deer season. But it was all right. I learned a whole bunch in between the time when I would have killed that buck that second week until the day I killed him 3 days ago. If I would have killed him, I wouldn't have learned all that stuff in between that I did. I wouldn't have become a better hunter in so many different ways. I wouldn't have scouted in these new areas. I wouldn't have got permission in this place that I got permission in, all these things. Like I learned where my giant 8-pointer's bedding now in this whole core area is, and I wouldn't have ever learned that. And now I have him. Hopefully he survives, and now I can chase him next year and have more pieces to the puzzle. Because I don't think I would have been focusing on a bunch of other stuff and kind of hung up all the hunting hat probably until January and start shed season again. But we got a little bit of snow for the first time here the other day. And there wasn't a ton of snow. It was kind of interspersed, it was a small layer on the top. But I got a picture of a nice 8-pointer going through one of my spots. Actually, the exact spot where I passed that 6-pointer. It's a nice 8-pointer going through there, 5 o'clock. Dropped my son off at daycare. I went in to go hunt him. And the way he was headed, I was like, all right, I think he's might be bedded in this finger between these two swamps. So I'm going to swing way south. It was a north wind, and I'm going to still hunt my way through that finger with those swamps on the side and try to catch him in his bed. Because it was 5 o'clock. I was like, he's probably heading to bed now, and he'll be bedded somewhere pretty close. He's trying to bed before daylight. He's tired from the rut. He's not going to be that far. So I had an idea where he's going to be. I still hunted really well through there. I was confident the whole way. It didn't make any noise. Never jumped anything up. Got to my camera, and I looked. Now I can actually see the track, right? I'm looking at the track, and that's why. He didn't go to that finger. He went down over the ridge the way he went. The camera was deceiving a little bit. He didn't go into that finger to bed. He went this way. So now I know the track is, I got there at 11. The track was 6 hours old. But I'm thinking to myself, it's December. They're not going to be moving far. They're tired from the rut. Most of the breeding has been done. They just don't move as far. So there's a chance that even though this is a 6 hour old track, he could be bedded 100 yards from here. So then the game was on, and it was kind of hard to pick up the track. I mean, you have to look for tiny little disturbances in the leaves or tiny little, granules of snow that are disturbed. That's really, you scan and you're just looking for these tiny disturbances when it was like this thin of a layer of tracking. And I stayed on that track. It was great because he was by himself for a long time. So even though it was hard to see, I knew that I was staying on his track. And I probably followed it 2,000 yards or so. Took me a long time because, again, I thought he could have been bedded anywhere. It's December. So keeping scanning. He was meandering everywhere too, which, again, if you listen to Big Woods Bucks and you read the Benoit books and all that, it's when they're meandering, they're not in a straight line. They're starting to meander. They're looking for a place to bed down. So I'm just constantly engaged with this extremely slow death creep the entire time on the 2,000 yards on this track. And he does a couple circles, and finally it's about 12:45, almost 1 o'clock, I think.
I could check the time you sent me the video.
Yeah, and the track goes up this knob, and I know from previous, I went in there with Kevin Plant, and he filmed me still hunting this whole piece, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever. And when we were doing that still hunt, I knew what was up over that ridge. There was a long kind of field going up in, not really a field, just farmer land that's cut. There's no trees in it, and just kind of like a clear cut, but it's there's no undergrowth. And that comes up into the woods, and there was a shooting house, a blind on stilts there, and that's the way that track was going up over that knob. And I knew at the top of that knob you go down, and that was going to be right there. So and that knob was south facing. The snow was gone on that side of it. So I knew the track was going up there, but I couldn't actually track him anymore.
Were you concerned at any point that there was a guy sitting in that shooting house?
No, because it was midweek. Most people are. I would have seen the orange in there. Put my binoculars up. One of my thoughts was, I'll go up and I'll look and see if there's anybody in there. And that shooting house is right on the edge of his property. Behind it, and it's right on the edge of that little field thing. And behind it, where the woods are, that is all the town land that I was hunting too. So it's not like, I wasn't going onto his land or anything. And it's not posted, so I could if I wanted to. But anyway, my thought was, he's going up there. All right, it's getting near the afternoon. I'll creep up and see if maybe they're up there bedded somewhere, or maybe he's up there bedded somewhere, and I'll sit on this knob here where I can see down. There's a nice view down there, and then to the right would be that field. And if anything's bedded down there, maybe they're going to work their way up to that field. Late season too, they like to find backyards and anything grassy, fields. They're finding food sources. Most of the acorns maybe in some places they've eaten up, so they're getting closer to the green stuff again. So that was the plan, and I went up 40 yards up that hill where I lost the track because it, went into just leaves. 40 yards up, and I just see tying straight up, tying out like this, main beam like that, and I was like, there's no way that's a buck. I'm second. Wind is howling too, nice wind. And I put the binocular up, and I was like, yeah, that is a buck. Holy crap. But he was bedded. It was so thick. And again, with the muzzleloader, you don't just like shoot down into that. He was bedded there. The wind was perfect. So I was like, I'm going to wait him out. He was only 30 yards away. And so I crouched down next to a tree and waited him out. I was just there for an hour and a half, I think. I'll go back and do all the math at some point. Hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, watching him crouch down next to this tree. And my thought is, when he stands up, I've got this tree I'll lean the woodman on and get a shot. I had to stand up too when he stands up, because low there was just all these twigs that could deflect a shot, and you have to be worried about. So my plan was, when he stands up, I'm going to stand up and take a shot. So an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes goes by. He starts moving around a little bit more. I'm seeing the rack, and I'm like, all right, I think he's about to stand up. He's a change of behavior now, and he does. He stands up and he stretches, takes a shit, and
morning routine.
And I'm like, all right, here it is. I stand up, looking through the scope. All of his vitals, dude. The one big tree is right where his shoulder is and behind the shoulder, so I can see just a tiny bit of the neck coming out, head and rack here. Then I see just stomach, and then there's another tree where his ass is. And I'm like, all right, well, he stayed there for another 3 or 4 minutes.
Did you contemplate a neck shot?
No, there wasn't enough of it there. I was like, plus, I'm just not worried. I'm being patient. I was already there for an hour and 45 minutes of patience. Just wait for him to take another step out and expose vitals, right? So, but I'm on this side, and I'm like, all right, well, let me just see. My thought, why it didn't want to happen, was him stand up and stretch and then just lay back down again. So I was like, all right, I got to get to the other side of this tree. Maybe it opens up vitals. And I looked that side, and I still didn't have a good shot, a good enough one. And I was like, I think I got to make something happen, because I don't want him to bed back down here and then me have to wait him out another couple hours again. And he finally, so I'm on this side, the right side of the tree, waiting for the vital, and nothing happens. And he takes a step to the left, this way, which I knew would have opened up. If I was on the other side, it opens it up. So I go around again to the other side, and I had to move my foot a step over too. And when I did that, he looked at me and through the scope, and I was like, oh shit. Now that he did that, I had all this patience, and I waited him out and everything, but now I know I need to shoot, and I need to shoot quick. He looked at me. I don't want to blow this now. And the gun was down like this. I had to slowly raise it. I didn't want to do a quick movement, which could have blown it. So I just slowly raised it up, dropped it down at the base of where his neck and his shoulder meet, and shoot. And he flops over. He's flopping around. I do a real quick reload. And I remember where he last flopped, so I'm going up with the reloaded woodman. And I'm looking where I saw him last flop. I didn't see it. To my left, I see some movement over here, and I see a deer bedded down, but it's looking the other way, and it's clearly a doe. And I'm like, oh, there's a freaking doe there the whole time? And how come she's still bedded there? This is weird. I'm walking up, and then it's doing going like this, acting weird. And I was like, that could be the buck. I raised to see, and I just see bloody pedicles. So I knew that he flopped. He shed as soon as I shot him, or maybe during the flop he shed, and he went over there and he bedded down. And he was not doing good. I had to get up and give him a finishing shot. But he was a beautiful deer, a huge 6, coming full circle, being able to get him after passing him in October. He let him live the entire rut. He probably had a fun rut. And my first deer tracking, I mean, some people will probably say it's not exactly tracking, because at the end you lost the track, and it actually wasn't the same buck that I was tracking, right? It wasn't that 8-pointer, it was a 6. I don't know where that 8-pointer was, but that track led me me engaging in the whole tracking thing the entire way is what led to killing that buck.
Right.
So some people might say it was not a true track, but I think I tracked that buck. I mean,
I give you credit. It's prop.
It was just an awesome experience, and that was the first time I've walked up to a good buck bedded down, where you see the antlers, and you have to have a game plan. So
and you had to shed hunt after you killed him.
Yeah.
You were like, okay,
I had to backtrack and find the sheds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was super cool. And then I went down and asked the farmer. I walked down because it would have been a brutal drag. It's about 1.5 miles in there that I would have had to drag that thing out if I had to go back to my car. And I went down and the farmer's wife answered the door. She's like, yeah, you can drive up there, no problem. I knew they're hunters because they have the shooting house and stuff. So it could go either way. They could be super protective, you know how that goes. They could be just kind of a-holes, right? Or be receptive. And they were awesome. She was like, go ahead, drive up there. I drive up. I had a 50-yard drag from in the sled down to where my Jeep was parked. And as I'm dragging him out, the husband, the farmer, is coming up in his ATV, and we just have an awesome conversation about hunting. And
well, he's speeding at you, and you're like,
he's coming up quick.
Oh, yeah. God. Oh, here we go. He didn't speak with his wife.
Well, sometimes you see that. Yeah, somebody speeding up, like, what are you doing?
I don't care what she told you. Get out of here.
Yeah. And he was not like this. Guy was classy, and I was like, yeah, look, I shot this buck 50 yards off of your shooting house up here. He was bedded right there. And he's like, yeah, they like to bed on that knob, and we're just exchanging information and details of the bucks in the area and stuff. And I was like, he couldn't believe that he shed his horns there after the shot. Thought that was cool. And then he's telling me, opening day of shotgun, he shot a big buck from his shooting house that was crossing the lower part of his field there, and it stumbled in the front like this, and just pushed itself with its hind legs all the way across that field. And he's like, and then my friend was hunting down there, and he saw it flop and into he thought it was dead. So he messaged me and was like, hey, that deer, don't worry, you don't got to get down. That deer's dead. So he gave it time, and he went down a couple hours later, and there was no trace of that deer anywhere to be found. There was blood. They tracked blood, but they never found him. And as he said that, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, wait a minute. As I was gutting this 6-pointer out, I noticed a wound on his front, I think it was forearm, I can't remember. But one of his front legs, there was a hole right through it, and it was starting to scab over and get black and stuff. So I knew it wasn't a fresh wound from my finishing shot, which I thought potentially could be the way I finished him. It could have gone through, but I was like, that's not a fresh wound. So that was in the back of my head. And I was like, yep. I was like, your story, this was the buck that you shot. He broke that front leg, and that's why he was pushing himself out. And he was bedded right behind the shooting house that you shot him from. And he lost, if you look at the video where I passed him, he looks like 180 pounds all day. He's a big-bodied, mature deer. And he looks 180 pounds. I was even thinking, hey, he could be a 200-pounder. And then when I weighed this deer, I just couldn't believe it. He was 129 pounds. And the rut, obviously they can lose up to 30% of their body weight during the rut. And then my thought is maybe he did that, and then when he got injured, he lived a stressful last 16 days since he was injured, probably not eating as much, and just all the stress, and it withered him down to nothing. I could not believe he was 129 pounds.
Yeah. Did you tape the horns to him when you weighed him?
Huh?
Did you tape the horns to him when you weighed him?
No, I did lay the horns on his butt though.
Right.
To weigh him. Doesn't really add much.
Right.
But it's like that buck, he's either an incredible 2-year-old, but I don't think so. He's got a long snout, he's got old beaten up feet, he's got a gray face, or he's could be ancient. So I'm going to send in the tooth. I mean, he could be 12 or 13 years old or whatever. I want to get it actually aged, because his antlers, they're huge frame for a 2-year-old. Green scored him 122 4/8 for a 6-pointer. I don't know. I think he was just on his way down, and this might have been his last year to live, because he was withering away to nothing too. But man, it was cool. It was awesome. That's the end of the season for me, really, and then I got to focus on helping you out.
Yeah, you made that farmer feel better. He's a good hunter, and he's an ethical sportsman. So you brought that, gave him closure. He felt, oh, awesome. Okay, that thing's dead now.
He was ethical. He was funny. He was self-aware. When I showed him the injury to the front leg, he was just like, boy, what a crappy shot that was, huh? Or what a lousy shot I am, or something like that. And he was really cool. He was like, we exchanged numbers. I was like, I'll show you all the pictures of deer that I've got in the forest back here, and videos and stuff. And he's like, really? Yeah, there's a nice 10-pointer here. I was telling him all the deer that I've got intel on. He was like, yeah. He's like, well, come up. You should come up sometime when we're hunting. I got friends coming from Tennessee between Christmas and New Year's, and he invited me to go up there and hang out, hunt there if I wanted to with him, and he was just really nice. And now, if I get a deer back in that forest, now I know that he'll let me drag it down, which made it so much easier, man. It was awesome. But there's a lot of good guys out there still. Not every hunter is so territorial, and he reminded me of a hunt stock thing, right? Like hunt stock, everybody was just like, there's no territorialness. Everyone was, it's like, oh, you're a hunter as well. We share this awesome thing together. Why would I repel that person? Like, cool, let's bond. You can drag through here, sure. Why don't you come hang out with me and my friends? Why don't you, like, that's the really good part of hunting.
Yeah, I come from a fishing background, and man, it's not like that in the angling world. It's no one talks. Everyone hates everyone else because they're, they use a different brand, or they fish different water, or they put their stock in different things. It's
so stupid.
I remember talking about that. I think it was with Timmy at Huntstock. It was like, man, this is just this. Everyone's so cool. Everyone's so open. They share. I mean, people suck in everything, but man, if this was a fishing event, it would be a whole different feeling. And I hate the word vibe, but it'd be a different vibe. So it's really cool to find a new hobby where people are actually welcoming, and it's really cool.
Yeah, why is that with fishing?
I think it's, first of all, I think firearms makes a massive difference. As soon as you introduce firearms, there's a certain level of competency and respect required, period. Anyone can buy an ugly stick at Dick's Sporting Goods, but to really buy a rifle and pass the hunter safety and all that, it's a different level of commitment. I don't know. Fishing's easier, that's a spectrum, but
More accessible,
easier to find success in certain species, at least initially. But I don't know, it's an interesting observation I had. I'm sure there's lots of shitty hunters, or people that suck to talk with, but I don't know. It was really cool.
Let's before we end this, let's talk about your Vermont buck this year too, because it was, I think, the 4th heaviest buck ever shot at our deer camp ever.
My heaviest deer, my second deer.
One of the best racks, probably 5.5 years old, and they don't get that old at our camp very often.
Right.
Mature buck, and it was incredible. Tell the story of that.
Yeah, so
the day after I still
right.
hunted
So you went and you saw a bunch of sign where you had obviously killed your buck the day before, and you were like, man, we were talking at camp. Where should I go the next day? What should we do? And you're like, honestly, like
there was 40 scrapes in this area.
There's so much sign back here, dude. Go back here, and we were looking at a map. They're like, this is a sweet little saddle. Like the deer are probably going to be coming through here. Why don't access? Yep. Anyway, came in early in the morning.
You did the same access, same kind of like.
Kind of. You went up a sheer bluff that was just nonsense. I went up someone's driveway without them knowing, but they weren't there. But anyway, it wasn't posted, so it was fine. At that time, they've changed their posting after that. So I went in early. You had left because you had to get back home. So it's all by myself, and went in early. Found a nice spot that I thought. I was way high up on the ridge, and I suddenly realized, like, I'm too high. I can't see through the canopy. It's too high. So I kind of got halfway down, 3/4 of the way down the ridge. Found this sweet little, like, when you're at like a theater, there's those rich people stuff where, like, Abe Lincoln would sit with the balconies by the stage. It was like this bluff had just one of those with an oak tree on it, and I was like, oh, this is sweet. So I sat there, sitting on the ground underneath this tree.
Got yourself a box seat.
Yeah, it was perfect, and I could, I had this perfect view. By perfect I mean I could see a ways. There was lots of stuff, and there wasn't a ton of shooting windows, but I felt good. An hour into the set, 7:15 in the morning, I hear a gunshot that is so loud and so close it frightens me. I jump. Just over the hill to my left. 15 minutes go by and I hear voices, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're dragging, they're cracking beers. This is good for them, but what do I do in this situation?
Did you actually hear the cracks?
No, I was just imagining in my mind that they're drinking and shooting the shit. Good for them. Yeah. But sucks for me, right?
Yep. There goes the only buck in town.
Right, or not just that, but like, what does that mean for me? Like, I don't know enough about hunting. Is that every deer in the square mile is now gone?
Because I killed one the day before, and then that one. Yeah.
Right, and are they going to be dragging it this way? I mean, are they now ruining everything for me? What do I do? Because there were clear cuts way further down, which is where you had got your buck. I thought I should probably pack up, slowly move to the clear cut, and see if I can kind of just get away from that disturbance. But then it's like, no, too much noise. Like, just sit and wait. Don't move. just see what happens. And an hour later, I hear a stick break, and I'm like, okay, that's either a human being or a deer. That is not a squirrel. That's, and then I hear like, you know, the of like the trotting four-legged creature through the crispy leaves, and then I hear coming through. It's like, oh, okay,
Yes.
fuck me, dude, this is a buck. What's going on?
Yep.
I flip open my scope flaps, flick off the safety, and I see Brown, and he's trotting through. I lost him for him. He's coming from right to left, way down below me, going through that saddle, which is exactly where we thought he was going to go. Turns out that when I was dragging him out, there was a doe had gone through there. I never saw the doe. It was probably before shooting light, but you could see the disturbance where the doe had come through. And man, it was like a fever dream. It kind of just like adrenaline kicked in.
You saw his rack, right?
Oh, I saw his rack and
You
knew
see-
that I didn't need to identify him. I could see with the naked eye this is a legal deer.
People probably are going to comment under here and give you shit for flicking the safety off before you saw it and identified it was a buck, even though you heard the grunt and stuff.
Right,
You're
yeah,
supposed to wait until
Sure.
it's
Hey,
completely identifiable.
I just went-
for a few. You're still.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
And,
But I just, you know, in my mind, I'm like, okay, let's get as ready as I possibly can, so I don't forget the safety is on or whatever. You know,
Yep.
I'll learn. But I see him, and he's moving quick. He's running, and it's not like I'm gonna try and stop this deer. And there was one.
But he wasn't full running, right?
No,
just
he was
kinda
like, you know, head down, sniffing. You know, just been like, oh, you know, damn girl, I'm coming. No. He was trotting. He wasn't galloping. Yeah. Oh yeah. And almost kind of like a in a way.
Yep.
And there was one spot where I thought I had a shot, so I had my crosshairs there waiting for him. And when he came in that one little spot, it was like a reflex reaction. It was crazy. I knew his neck was so thick that like I knew I had my crosshair right on the sweet spot, and I just knew I could hit him. I knew I could hit him.
Yep.
And I pulled that trigger. And
You're extremely confident.
I knew it was like a video game. I used to play a lot of Counter-Strike, and it was like a quick scope. It was like a flick shot with the mouse. I just knew he was dead. I knew it. And he dropped, and I was like, this was the first time I'd ever done this. You know, kind of, you know.
That was your first solo deer too.
It was my
right?
first solo deer. You know, you were nice to sit with me as a mentor for my first deer 2 years prior, but this was my first. You know, I'm a real boy. And he dropped, so I rack one quickly again, and I'm just watching him with my scope, and I'm like, move, and I'm shooting you again. You move, I'm shooting you again, and he's just completely motionless.
Yeah.
And it's like
He's deader than dead.
Holy shit, I did it.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I did it. And it was so.
And I was on my way back, and you called me.
It happened so
FaceTime.
fast, man. I just couldn't believe it. But yeah, so I called you FaceTime, and it's like, well, first of all, I texted the boys, all of us, and like, buck down. And they're like, you got one, Evan?
Yeah.
You know, you got one? I was like, yeah, man. Yeah, it's a good one. And then I call you, and I'm like, Pat, I got one. And you're driving. You're like, no way. And you pull over, and you tried to do a screen record, because that would have been funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I dropped a monster. And, you know, like, when you're new to something, normally, you know, when I take kids fishing, like, I caught a monster. I'm like, okay, yeah, show me, sure, great. Not really a monster, but you know, and I probably could have shot a small 6 and had the same reaction.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, it's a monster.
For around there, this is a
But,
giant
and you're
6
probably
deer.
like, all right, yep, sure. You're super pumped for me, which was great. But you know, in the back of your mind, it's probably like, okay, sure, let me see this. Let me see this deer. And I roll. You know, I'm FaceTiming you as I'm trotting down, and I don't know if I called you back or if it was all that whole time.
was all that whole
The whole time, and I'm like, I just point the camera down at his when you get to
And
him.
I was like,
and you're
holy shit! I mean, that is a freaking monster.
oh, I couldn't believe it, man.
For
It was-
camp, I mean, it's a huge deer, and if it had brows, it would have been a huge 8. It was
Yeah,
a big ass 6.
He didn't have brows.
We both got big 6s this year.
Yep, he didn't have brows. He was nicely masked. He had webbed, you know, the webbed G2s and G3s, and he was a big bodied deer.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first, you know, gutting a deer by myself.
Yep.
It's an oversized rainbow trout.
Yeah.
But dragging him out of the woods was not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun.
It's really hard to do by
This
yourself.
was also a
It's
tricky
just-
drag because it was pretty far up and over in, relatively.
And also, like, it was after rain, which kind of makes it harder to drag.
it's so-
than if
so-
it was just dry leaves, it drags a little bit better. Rain, it's like...
Well,
it
this
kinda-
area, it's shaly, and there's like a moss carpet that grows over that shale, and then the leaves fall. So you can't tell what's underneath, but when you're trying to get traction, that moss gives up,
Yeah.
and you just, and you slip. and I had one of those just like basic hooped.
But you ended up
drags.
getting reinforcements. Who came to help Andy? And
Went back to camp, got your Uncle Andy and cousin Aaron, and was like, help me out, guys. And Andy knows where all the logging roads are, and he was like, oh yeah, you don't want to drag like this. You want to come up and in here. And
you brought a cart, right?
no,
or a sled?
we just brought
nothing.
We just dragged them, or I dragged them, and they helped pull the horns and everything. And
it was real tough, huh?
I learned that you shouldn't just like go like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You need to go slow, and and Andy was like, yeah, you can't drag like that. If you get another one, you got to go slow at a time, because I was just trying to go ham. But another learning experience. And
it was a huge buck bodied, and it had a gorgeous cape on him too. Just a beautiful deer.
Yeah, it was a beautiful deer. I weighed him at Rack and Reel up in New Haven in Vermont, and he was 170.6 with full growlic, and the biologist was there because it was opening weekend, and they stuck that that leverage device to open the mouth, and as soon as she looks in the mouth, she's like, oh my god, guys, and she calls over her like grad students or whatever. She's like, look at this, this might be the oldest buck we see all weekend. And she told me, she's like, usually in the crevices of the molars there's little black lines, and his teeth were all black, like there wasn't just thick black lines, like they were just worn and black. And she was like, I'm guessing this is probably a 5.5-year-old. Might be one of the oldest deer we see this weekend, and that's pretty cool.
That's Vermont's herd for you. Not a lot of mature bucks.
That said, though, I was having a conversation with a guy across at the Dunkin' Donuts across the street before I went to the weigh station, and he's in the green and black lumberjack tracking outfit, and I'm in camo, and I was like, any luck? And he's like, oh yeah, 11-pointer. I'm like, no way, dude, because I'm on a high.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to show me. And he comes out, and dude, this deer was so cool. It was a nice typical 11-pointer. It stole my thunder a little bit. It went like 198 or something. But
your deer weighed what?
170.
170.
Yep, fully dressed, nothing left in him.
Yep, and around deer camp, that is that is a top 4 deer of all time, and that camp's been around since 1958 or 6.
Yep.
So that was awesome, dude. 30 year in hunting. You've got 2 6-pointers at camp.
Yep.
A lot of success, and you're on your way, dude.
Yeah, he's with a guy with flesh-eating beetles at the moment. Going to get a nice Euro done. That was a really cool experience.
What do you what's your whole thoughts on deer camp, and how do you?
I'm incredibly envious that you had that in your life growing up. I had a version of it for fishing, but not the same small scale like that. It's a rare thing in this day and age, especially with people of our generation, I feel. It's just, I'm sure you guys have probably heard Pat talk about deer camp a lot, but I mean, wood stove is a source of heat, and the wood stove's older than me. You can see through the siding in this house, in this camp.
And Evan is like, oh, was it, talking, we can upgrade this.
I got really drunk. I got really drunk the night before.
We can upgrade that door, and everyone's like, no.
Well, I just got drunk, I was a carpenter for, before, and I'm just like, we got to get rid of this, we got to get that, we got to do this, and I was just drunk, and they're all like, whatever, shut up, kid. But that was good. And was dry heaving from the outhouse before. That was the good luck charm that got me the buck. I think I need to go and smelling salts every morning. That's the good luck charm. But no, it's a really, really cool camp. It's backs up to public land, which is unheard of.
There's just something about walking out the front door, and it's like, all right, which way am I going to go? And you just hunt from there.
You show me another deer camp that's a postage stamp in the middle of public land. It's a gem. It's so cool. And all the, there's great fishing all nearby. We go there to ice fish in the wintertime. State record northern is somewhere nearby. It's really cool. Really, what makes it great too is it's all family. It's you guys. Yeah.
And this year we had a good year. My cousin Aaron ended up getting one of the best rack bucks ever out of camp too.
Next weekend.
Super nice mass everywhere. It was a 10-pointer too, right?
I forget.
10-pointer with amazing mass. Just a beautiful buck.
Yep.
First bear out of camp this year.
Yep.
We never had bear. We've seen bear the last 10 years. Before that, they weren't around. They've came back the last 10 years in that area, and we've seen them and have had shots, but got our first one killed.
Is this the first year the young bucks killed more whitetails than the old farts?
I don't think so. I think there's other ones, but they have a lot more. The retired guys have a lot more time, and the guys that just live, they live close. The thing with me is since I moved to Massachusetts, it's so hard to do any scouting, so I kill a deer every 4 or 5 years up there now. because I don't scout. And I've realized how important scouting is to like everything. I scout heavily around here, and it's helped tremendously.
Yep.
So unless you get snow and you're tracking or something, it's hard to really find a good spot to scout. But Andy puts in his time a lot scouting. He finds great spots to sit that year after year will produce.
He's got that old man wisdom too. There's something to be said about Andy is just a straight up killer. He doesn't fade his confidence there. He's always telling himself the deer's going to come around the corner. He's successful. He's by far, I'd say, the most successful guy out of that deer camp.
Yeah, he kills a lot of deer.
Yep. And he's also just he's a good dude. Everyone is. Yep.
Yep.
Always a fun time to go down there. Yep.
Well, cool. That probably wraps it up for this whole deer season.
I'm done for the year.
Yep.
Yeah, on to ice fishing season.
Yep, I'm done.
Yep.
Gonna be shed season right around the corner. I don't know, with my baby coming in early February, I'm probably not going to get much shedding in then, so I'm going to try, hopefully find some early drops in January and get a couple under the belt.
I found my first shed ever yesterday.
You did find a shed yesterday.
Not a jam, but it was the first
Chewed
ever.
up,
Yeah.
2-point side from a 4-pointer.
Yeah.
Probably 5 or 6 years old, been laying there.
Yeah. But that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. I'm looking forward to coming down and shed hunting with you. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we should do at least a day or two.
Yep, you have to come up and ice fish with me. That's the deal.
Yeah, 100%. Bring Austin and.
Yeah, we'll do the kids' day out in the ice. Absolutely.
Yep. All right, we'll end it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, man.
Yeah, brother.